mounted gunmen, mounted riflemen, spies, and Minutemen. Their mission was to range the frontier, protecting settlers from Indian raids and lawlessness. Periods of service varied from a few days to several months. Pay was poor and often consisted of promissory notes issued by the government. A spy company was formed in Shelby County, and John was appointed the first lieutenant. John then became a member of the Board of War and was soon appointed captain of the ranging company of the Sabine. The company patrolled an area stretching along Trammel's Trace, which was a road running from Nacogdoches to the Louisiana border. These men, with their iron resolve, defined forever what it means to be a Texas Ranger. In the early days of the Republic, Texas Rangers were usually armed with muzzle-loading single-shot rifles and pistols. Captain Jack Hayes introduced the original Colt Patterson revolver to the Rangers in 1836, and later in 1847, Samuel Walker introduced the famous Walker Colt, which became the weapon of choice. On numerous occasions, John placed his life on the line. After one unsuccessful pursuit of a group of desperados who had killed some of his neighbors near Shelbyville, he rose early one morning on March 26, 1842, and went into the woods to search for his horses. Suddenly he was fired upon by a number of gunmen who had concealed themselves among the trees. He wrote about this in the following passage. 2 shots rang out. 3 balls entered my hip. 2 struck my hand, and 1 striking the powder horn at my side, and going through that gave me a flesh wound. Other balls pierced my clothing in different places. I turned, walking a few steps, and was fired upon again by 2 persons. The assassins then ran, and I went to my house without falling or giving way to weakness. During his service as a ranger in East and South Texas, John served under some of the truly great men of early day Texas: General Sam Houston, General Thomas Jefferson Rusk, and 3rd President of Texas, George B. Erath, who later became a surveyor. Erath County now carries his name. In 1851, John wrote, "I was so annoyed by my enemies in Shelby County, by being waylaid, my horses poisoned, and was kept so disturbed that I left Shelby County and settled 12 miles west of Jordan Saline. Today, the town is known as Grand Saline." The family's move to Jordan Saline did not remove them from harm's way, however. In 1854, he bought another herd of cattle and hogs, intending to move them to the Horseshoe Bend of the Brazos River. Early one morning, on going out to round up the herd, he discovered they had been stolen. He rounded up those he could find and then moved his family, along with his remaining stock, to the Horseshoe Bend, approximately 20 miles north of this cemetery. His ranch was located only a short distance from the Young County Indian Reserves, and it was repeatedly attacked by renegade Indians who were discontent from being forced to live on the reservations. On one occasion, a friend of John's was killed, and John took 2 arrows as they pursued a warring band from the upper Young County Reserve. Many settlers and Native American Indians died from the Caddo, Comanche, Anadarko, and Tonkawa tribes, suffered great losses of life from that tragic time in our American history. Not only did John have to contend with the warring Indian tribes, but white men posing as Indians carried out numerous atrocities, stealing livestock and murdering innocent victims. On one occasion, 4 men masquerading as Indians murdered a man and his wife on Lost Prairie. In the pursuit, one of the murderers was killed while resisting arrest, and 2 others were caught and hung on Paluxy Creek. Later, the remaining fugitive was caught and executed. Justice was sure and swift. During his career as a lawman in this area, he fought alongside famous Texas Rangers like Buck Berry and Peter Garland. A major portion of John's life was dedicated to law enforcement. On August 3, 1858, he was elected Justice of the Peace in Erath County. By then, he had moved his ranching operation to Middleton Point, approximately 2 miles west of the current city of Lipan. While living in this area, John and his son-in-laws, James Wesley White, signed a petition addressed to the state of Texas requesting that Granbury become the county seat of Hood County. John wrote that just prior to secession, he was serving in a regiment commanded by Colonel Van Ripple at Double Mountain. The unit was disbanded in preparation for the Great War. His eldest son, Nathan, volunteered in his place and was sent to Arkansas Post, where he was captured. He was then sent to the infamous Camp Douglas outside Chicago, where he died of disease and starvation. In 1871, Mary Ann sickened and died. Of Mary, he had this to say: She was in all relations of life a noble woman, a wife and mother faithful, watchful and affectionate, industrious and charitable. No man's domestic life was more blessed. 2 years later, he married an old family friend and favorite of his wife, Jane Boson. They remained married until his death in 1898. As descendants, we bear great honor in having John as one of our ancestors. He showed great bravery and courage in establishing law and order in the ever dangerous frontiers he called home. This closing passage of his book eloquently sums up his illustrious life. I have had during my life many conflicts, many chases after Indians and violators of the law. I bear upon my body many scars of many wounds and many bullets which were not extracted and remain in my body. Age sits lightly upon my shoulders, and I have the consolation of looking back over the past to find there is little I could wish to change.